chlamydia, an often under-discussed and misunderstood STI. Despite its prevalence, chlamydia still carries a significant stigma and shame for many individuals who contract it. It's time to start talking openly and honestly about this infection and to recognize that anyone can be affected, regardless of their age, gender, or sexual orientation. Let's get started. We will talk about the history, statistics, symptoms, how do you test for it, who should test for it, treatment, and how do you prevent it. Chlamydia is a sexually transmitted infection caused by a bacteria called as Chlamydia trachomatis. The history of chlamydia dates back centuries, but it wasn't until the 20th centuries that it became recognized as a distinct medical condition. The earliest known reference to chlamydia-like symptoms was in the writings of the ancient Greeks, who described a condition they called apathy that caused genital ulcers and discharge. However, it's unclear whether this was actually chlamydia or another STI. In the early 20th century, researchers began to identify the bacteria that caused various diseases, including chlamydia. In 1907, scientists called Halbert Stader and von Prouzac discovered the bacteria that causes trachoma, a form of eye infection that can lead to blindness. Later, in the 1960s, researchers identified that bacteria that caused the eye infection trachoma as Chlamydia trachomatis. This bacteria then went on to cause the common STI that we now know as chlamydia. Despite the identification of chlamydia as a distinct medical condition, it remained relatively unknown and underdiagnosed until the 1970s and 80s, when the advances in diagnostic techniques and public health campaigns helped to raise awareness of the infection. Today, chlamydia is one of the most common STIs, with millions of new cases diagnosed each year worldwide. In 2020, according to WHO, there were an estimated 129 million reported cases of chlamydia in the world. However, the number of cases seems to be an underestimate, as many cases go unreported, as not everyone experiences symptoms. Rates of reported chlamydia are highest among adolescents and young adults. In 2020, almost 2/3, 61% of all reported chlamydia cases were among persons aged 15 to 24 years. Now, I did mention it as an STI, but it's important to know how you may or may not get chlamydia. Let's talk about how you get it first. Number 1, unprotected vaginal, anal, or oral sex. Number 2, sharing toys that are not washed. Number 3, your genitals coming into contact with your partner's genitals. This means you can get chlamydia from someone even if there is no penetration, orgasm, or ejaculation. Number 4, infected semen or vaginal fluid getting into your eye. And number 5, it can also be passed by a pregnant woman to her baby. However, chlamydia cannot be passed on through casual contact, such as kissing and hugging, or from sharing baths or towels, swimming pools, toilet seats, or cutlery. Now, let's talk about the symptoms of chlamydia. Chlamydia is like a ninja of all STIs. Number 1, pain while urinating. Number 2, unusual discharge from vagina, penis, or anus. Number 3, in women, pain in the tummy, bleeding after sex, and bleeding between periods. Number 4, in men, pain and swelling in the testicles. If you think you're at risk of having an STI or have any symptoms of chlamydia, please get tested. Talk about testing, let's just now talk about how do you test for it. The 2 most common tests for chlamydia are swab tests and urine tests that can be done at any STD clinic. Swab tests are most preferred for women, where a sample of the bacteria is taken from the cervix. Urine tests are done for men, where a urine sample is taken and tested for the bacteria. However, a swab test can also be done on men. Let's talk about treatment for chlamydia now. If left untreated, this infection can spread to other parts of your body and lead to long-term health problems, especially in women. In women, untreated chlamydia can cause pelvic inflammatory disease, ectopic pregnancy, and infertility. In men, in rare cases, chlamydia can spread to the testicles, causing them to become painful and swollen. This is known as epididymitis, or inflammation of the testicles. It can also sometimes cause reactive arthritis in men and women. This is why it's important to get tested and treated as soon as possible if you think you may have chlamydia. Chlamydia is treatable with antibiotics. The most commonly prescribed antibiotics for chlamydia are azithromycin and doxycycline. Azithromycin is usually given at a dose of 1 gram orally as a single dose, followed by 500 milligrams daily for further 2 days. Doxycycline is given as 100 milligrams twice daily for 7 days. Please note that doxycycline is contraindicated in pregnancy. When you're prescribed antibiotics, make sure you complete the full course to ensure that the infection is completely cured. It is also important to let all of your partners know so that they can get tested and treated as well. Lastly, let's talk about how we can prevent it from happening in the first place. The best and also the least popular form of prevention strategy is abstinence. The next best things are condoms. When used correctly and consistently, condoms offer one of the most effective methods of protection against most STIs, including chlamydia. It is also important to get tested regularly and limit the number of sexual partners to minimize your chances of catching chlamydia.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Please like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. Together, let's build a world where sex education is a human right.